Hello, my name is Denio Garindi, and I'm here at the Canadian Science Policy Conference with Dr. Sandra Lapointe. Thank you for taking time to speak with me today.
You're very welcome.
You had a wonderfully engaging, interactive session this morning. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what your session was about and why you think it's important to talk about social sciences and humanities at a conference like this.
So our session this morning, well, it ranged over a number of topics, but I think the main focus was on future skills and impact in the social science and humanities, but also more broadly because I think that it's a bit arbitrary to draw strong boundaries between social science and humanities and STEM. So what we wanted to talk about was about the ways in which fostering a better culture around social science and humanities skills actually can contribute to make meaningful impact, and we were trying to model a new way of creating impact.
That's awesome, yeah. So I know that you're the director for an initiative called the Collaborative. Could you talk a little bit about the objectives of that initiative?
So the Collaborative is a platform that seeks to create a better culture around social science and humanities education by creating collaborations between educators but across sector. So the aim is that there's various aims. One of them is to create more synergy across the sectors from K-12 to post-secondary education, to make it easier for the students to understand what academic culture or university culture is, so that it makes it attractive, to give a better representation of social science and humanities disciplines before the student also enters the university or college. So what we're trying to do is to provide educators in the social science and humanities with the support that they need to be able to engage meaningfully. And the aim is to create a community of practice where educators can acquire more resources, can exchange, co-create knowledge together for, of course, the benefit of the students.
That's great. Do you have kind of a timeline on when we'll see this initiative start to kind of roll out?
So we are in the first official year of the deployment of the project. So we're conducting focus groups and we're developing the various aspects of the project. We recently teamed up with MyTax to develop our training for the facilitators, because of course one big piece of the puzzle here in creating collaborations is to provide the support for these collaborations to actually pan out. It's very difficult to bring people from different sectors to collaborate together. So in the spring we will be producing a prototype of the digital interface and database that is going to be supporting the work of the facilitators, and we are going to be working with MyTax and as well as stakeholders from the social science and humanities to develop a training that is going to be supporting the work of the facilitators. These facilitators will be graduate students from the social science and humanities. The purpose of the training is, of course, to enable them to work with the platform and to support these collaborations, but it's also an opportunity to provide graduate students with the kinds of skills that they need in order to enhance their capacity toward the future, in their future employment, whether it's academic or not.
That's fantastic. So it's really an opportunity to kind of fill a gap and create skills for both graduate students that are involved, but also kind of the broader community outside of academia.
Exactly. And the model is it's a partnered model. It's a model of co-creation. So the idea is that you bring educators across sector as peers together to co-create and to exchange, because all educators have strengths, and making them aware of their respective challenges is already building capacity. It enables the academic to better understand where the students who are going to populate their first year, second year classroom come from and adapt their teaching methods. And it's also a way to help teachers in elementary, but also probably mainly high school, to have a more up-to-date knowledge of what's going on in the disciplines to make their classrooms more engaging by bringing university educators, experts in their classroom. We have a range of different kinds of activity toolkits that we will be implementing in partnerships with the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation, the Canadian High School Ethics Bowl, as well as with the Centre interuniversitaire pour la recherche sur la science et la technologie. They all focus on different aspects of what makes the substance of the social science and humanities. So as to structure the collaborations and be able to engage not only the educators but their classrooms as well.
That's great. I know you're also working on another initiative that's kind of looking to address similar challenges called the Research Commons.
Yeah, that's a work in progress, but I think that out of the work we've done on the collaborative, especially because what we want to do is to model a new way of creating impact that is focused on a good understanding of social and human skills. One of the questions that arose is, what are those? Yeah. What are social and human skills? It's become sort of a talking point for everyone now to say the future skills are social and human skills. And a lot of new initiatives are built around the idea that we have to foster those skills. What the main post-secondary education stakeholders, and here I'm thinking about the granting councils, Universities Canada, MyTax, as well as the Canadian Association for Graduate Studies, the Federation for the Humanities. So all these organizations are very much interested in understanding, creating a common vocabulary, making sure that we understand what we're talking about when we're talking about critical thinking or creativity, how this fits in the picture, so that we create common ground as PSC stakeholders to respond to the demands of industry and government, because if it is going to be a social priority, a societal priority to foster those skills, as PSC stakeholders, we have to know what we want to do, what's part of our mandate. So we ganged up, and we're going to be thinking about that in a very concrete way. At the end of November, we're going to have a panel at the Skills and Education Symposium that's organized by the Conference Board of Canada, where we're going to be presenting the Commons, and actually as part of a consultation to also gain insight from the public. So there's going to be representatives from the Social Science and Humanities Research Council, from NSERC, from MyTax, and from the Federation for the Humanities and Social Sciences.
Fantastic. It's really great to see and hear that there'll be so much collaboration to try to bridge the gaps between academia and industry and government.
I mean, creating common ground and adopting conceptual resources that converge is quite important when you're talking about a topic that can be as evasive as that of skills and impact. Yeah. And especially if you're thinking about what some of these organizations need to do, which is to evaluate programs that have to do with training and whether or not graduate students are acquiring the skills that they need. Well, what are they? What are those skills? And what's the theory behind it? I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done on that.
Well, I look forward to seeing where that goes. As kind of a last question for you, I'm wondering what you see as the greatest value of a conference like the Canadian Science Policy Conference.
Well, I mean, science policy is something that, as a humanist, I think is one of the most interesting discussion. And it would be a mistake, of course, to think that science policy only has to do with science. It has to do with policy. And policy it raises a lot of questions that have to do with humans and society. The interest of the conference for me is personally to come and learn about what is being discussed, because what I want to understand as someone who is an advocate for social science and humanities is what lacks in our understanding of science literacy, of the way in which policy happens, in terms of an understanding of the contribution of the social science and humanities to the discourse. We talk a lot about STEM when we talk about science, but science is a very complex phenomenon. It requires expertise and input and skills that come from all the sectors, and if you mix in policy in addition to that. So it's for me, the appeal is learning what are the priorities when it comes to drawing the future of science in Canada, so that I can understand what can be a better contribution for the social science and humanities. I'm saying that as a director for the Federation for the Social Science and Humanities.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Well, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
I will certainly do so. Thank you.